Good morning. Welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host. Delighted to have you with us on this Thursday. Yes? No, it's Wednesday. I don't know what day. I'm only good for one day in the week, and that's Monday because I've been rested up. And by Wednesday, I don't even know what day or time or my name. But we don't really care what my name is this morning. We're honored to have in studio Bill Heath, State Senator from the 31st District of the great state of Georgia. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Steve.
Thank you for coming in. You have a good radio voice, by the way. Bill Heath, let's go over his committees real quick. He's a member of the Agricultural and Consumer Affairs Committee. He's a member of the Finance Committee. He's a chairman of the Government Oversight Committee, which is charged with what? Waste and abuse? And
that's just something to keep me busy.
Okay.
It doesn't do anything.
Okay, doesn't do anything. Okay, that's encouraging. So I'll remember that when I write my next tax check. Natural Resources and the Environment, Vice Chair. That's pretty good. Transportation ex officio. Now, by trade, you're a businessman / farmer?
That's right.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. You do a lot. You do a lot of things to make money, right?
I do a lot of things. I don't make much money, but I do enjoy life.
Good. Well, before we get into the business of the state senate, let's stay a little political at first, just for the fun of starting out. I don't know if you've heard, but we have a somewhat contentious Republican gubernatorial runoff race
Here in Georgia?
Yeah, I think I've heard something about some guy named Cagle and some guy named Kemp. Now, so where are you throwing your vast weight of support?
Well, I have been a Kemp supporter and will continue to do so. Steve, I guess it was 12 years ago I flew Casey Cagle all over the state because I believed he was the right guy to be lieutenant governor, and I've been disappointed. And so Brian Kemp is a great guy. I've watched him work. I've worked his budget in the state senate. He's the kind of guy that comes and shoots straight with you. Sit down and tell you, I don't need these funds over here, or I really need some help here. He's just kind of been the kind of guy you can trust. That you never hear he's telling one person one thing and another person something different.
That's a pretty strong endorsement.
Well, I think he's a pretty good candidate. I think he'll do a good job. He's had the leadership experience. He's been in business. I think he's the right guy for the job.
Well, let me ask you, staying kind of on the political realm, as a campaigner, are you satisfied with him as a campaigner? Obviously, if he wins the primary, in my opinion, he's going to have some stiff competition this fall.
Yeah, he, the people, of course, being in politics, you see things a little bit differently than folks who are not in politics. But the people that I've talked to that have met him and talked to him are very impressed with him. So he's, he comes across as sort of a simple, honest guy. But don't let that fool you. He's been pretty involved and I think fully capable.
The media and the left tends to criticize him for some of his ads, which are very pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment. But you're a pro-Second Amendment guy too, right?
I am. It was kind of funny. I had ladies at my church coming to me talking about that guy that pointed a gun at the kid.
Right.
He didn't point a gun at the kid. And it's just, sometimes it's fun, and we all like to beat up on the liberal media.
Sure.
But sometimes it's just fun to get over close to the edge and watch people go crazy. It's the same thing that's going on with Trump.
Tell us, we'll stay in the political realm just for a minute before we get into the legislative realm. You're a businessman, and you're also in government, elected official. My question is, and I've never thought this, but I think Trump has proven me wrong, that you really cannot bring business principles effectively into government, and the role of government is just, the government is not about making a profit, whereas business is. But it seems like he's doing that.
Steve, when I got involved in politics, that was a phrase we heard: run government like a business.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it sounded good to me. But you're exactly right. government and business kind of should have different objectives. There's plenty of room for good business sense in government, and I think that's what we're seeing with Trump. He's been pretty impressive the way that he's been extremely firm. He hasn't sugar-coated things. He just says it like it is. I think he drives the media crazy when he bypasses. In the past, if there was something that you wanted to say, you said it. You had a press conference and you said it to the press, and they got to say it for you.
Sure.
And he's just kind of course, social media. You see that here. He bypasses that, and he comes across communicating very simply. Mm-hmm. But I don't think any of the world leaders think he is a weak president.
Sure.
And it's like when he was going over to Korea, and they started playing games with him. He's like, well, just forget it. We won't do this. And they came to him.
Yeah. Got to be willing to walk away.
And I think he's doing a great job.
Mm. Yeah, it's kind of like Reagan. Both Trump and Reagan had a lifetime of involvement with the media, so they understood it. They understood messaging and marketing, and that's one reason they're were effective as they are. Okay, well, before we go to break, now we've got to make note. One of the most important things here is you have a wonderful wife. I've met her, and I always kid with her about you, because I mean she's just like the brains behind the operation.
She is. She's an amazingly patient lady. And today is her birthday.
So I wish Susan a happy birthday.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy birthday.
All right. We've got State Senator Bill Heath in the studio. We're going to come back and talk about the great state of Georgia and the state Senate. You can join us 678-601-TALK, 678-601-8255, or on Facebook Live, the WLBB Facebook page, or we're on 106.3 FM and 1330 AM. And we'll be back with more after this from Tanner Health System.
At Tanner, we're advancing health throughout West Georgia and East Alabama, because we know that exceptional care isn't based on how many patients we serve, but how well we serve them. That's why we're focused on quality, delivering the best possible care for our patients. It's why we're expanding our clinical services and building new facilities to serve our growing community. And it's why we're looking beyond our hospitals and medical practices to develop sustainable wellness and preventive health programs in our region. What makes a hospital great has changed. It's not how many beds we have. It's how well we care for the neighbors who need them. Delivering the right care to every patient, every time, is how Tanner is advancing health with medicine beyond measure. Learn more at tanner.org. or find a physician on our medical staff by calling 770-214-CARE.
Good morning. Welcome back to Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host, and delighted to have you with us. We're honored to have in studio Bill Heath, state senator from the 31st District, the great state of Georgia, which includes Haralson, Western Paulding, and part of Polk.
It's all of Polk, all of Haralson, all of Polk, and about the northern 2/3 of Paulding County.
What got my attention was your newsletter back, let's see, blah, 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 back in late June as the legislature was winding down, and you made some comments that were rather frank and rather bold, and without reading this, because it'd take a little bit too long, basically paraphrasing, what you're contending is the state legislature is spending way too much time in the early part of the session on these feel-good resolutions, and then at the end, where legislation's getting backed up and not properly debated, discussed, or studied, and therefore the state's being harmed by this. Can you elaborate?
Well, I have had problems with the way the legislature works from day one. Understandably, when we go down for the first year of a 2-year term, 2 years cycle, there's the slate is wiped clean, and there's nothing for nothing in the committees and those kind of things for us to do. So admittedly, the first year it takes a little while to get up to speed, but this year, the second year of a 2-year cycle, we should have come in ready to rock and roll. But we spend maybe 45 minutes actually on the floor in the Senate the first few days. No committees, because the rules provide that if a committee passes a bill out, it goes straight to the floor. So the leadership forbids the committee chairman from passing anything out. So it seems to be by design that we push the big issues off until the final days. Now,
why is that? Well, okay, if I can say it bluntly, everybody's politicking in the first few days with these resolutions and whatever. But these big issues, but you just said these big issues are pushed off to the end by design. Why in the world would they want to do that?
That way, there's only a few people who know what's going on. But let me also say that part of it is human nature. There's a deadline. If it's going to get done, it's got to get done tonight, kind of thing. So I think both things are going on, but you'll hear so many times someone say, this is just a bill to get to conference. That's a scary thought, to get to conference where there's 3 conferees from the House, 3 conferees from the Senate. Somehow or another, they agree on this, quote, compromise language, and it's put on the desk, and if the Senate abides by its rules, we get a whopping 2 hours to review it while everything else is going on. So it is the place to pull your tricks. And, Steve, the whole process is not rotten. There's some good people, and there's some good intentions. But that is a technique that allows legislators to avoid having to face the people. And there are some very intelligent people who say, oh no, I don't want to get rid of this expedited conference committee process. And it's almost as if they had rather go home and say, I voted on something that I didn't have time to read, than to have had the public an opportunity to review it and reach out.
I think most people intuitively get a sense of what you're just describing, but as a voting population, what can we do about it?
I would encourage people to, and I don't know how broad of a listening area that you have, but I would encourage people to reach out to their legislator, whether it's a state rep or a state senator, and demand that that legislation be published online overnight before any vote. Mm-hmm. Why should the public not be able to see what we do? We talk about open government, transparency, but it's really not there.
Well, I'm always appalled. We got a Republican president, Republican Congress, Republican governor, Republican, state legislature. So it would seem like Republican principles would dictate that these things would be done.
Steve, I'm a Republican, but I do not agree with what's going on there, and with everything. And I will tell you that there are some in the legislature who wear the Republican title who wore a Democrat title when the Democrats were
in power.
And
that was really up to about 1990, the early 1990s.
Yeah, and honestly, I think today there are some Democrats who are more conservative than some Republicans.
Well, now you were the governor's floor leader under Sonny Perdue for a few years, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And who is now Secretary of Agriculture. So that's a pretty big deal.
It's pretty cool. He nor I are one that just chit chats.
Yeah. He doesn't call you up
I'll
every day.
guarantee you, if I pulled out my phone right now and texted him and said, hey, give me a call, he would probably call before we're done with the radio show.
Okay, well, text him, give him 678-601-8255. But in that position, obviously, you saw a lot. You had a different viewpoint, different perspective. How many years you been in the state legislature now?
Too long, Steve.
You started as state rep, but how long's it been?
I
About
was
20,
first.
20
No,
years?
not quite. I was first elected in 2002. Took office in 2003 in the state house and served 2 years and was elected to the Senate.
Yeah, I was there. I remember.
I know you do.
All right, let's jump in because we're going to run out of time. I appreciate those comments. Let's run through a couple things while we still got time. Medical marijuana. It's been talked about for many years. Somewhat controversial at times. In your newsletter, you mentioned though that Georgia is cannabis oil is 5%, which is let's see. No, yeah, that's right. Which is a little bit high. What's your current thinking on the medical marijuana debate?
Well, I certainly believe that there is the possibility that there is some good medicinal use of parts of the marijuana plant or
Let me interrupt. Are you satisfied that the research shows that? Because I think there's a question there with that.
You can find anything you want to find on the internet. What I don't find is the medical community saying we need greater access to marijuana. Now, part of that, they claim that they can't because it's a Schedule 1 substance and they can't experiment with it. But Georgia, I feel, is a little bit disingenuous in that we talk about low THC oil and define low THC oil as being 5% by weight THC, and that is the highest level in the nation. It is higher than it's higher for medical, uses in Colorado. No one has a higher level. Of course, Colorado's got a recreational use, but
we'll talk about that next time you come back. Yeah, my family used to live in Colorado, and my nephews experienced that, and it's not good. But anyway, that's a different subject. As far as medical marijuana, cannabis oil, accessibility, what does that mean in terms of possibly leading us toward, approving recreational marijuana?
Those who have gotten support for the medical marijuana use here say that they are absolutely opposed to recreational use. But Steve, it's been very hard to find people that I trust in the debate.
Sure. Let's switch gears. A lot of people, including me, were impacted by the Hands-Free Georgia Act, which passed House Bill 673, and we, of course, Colin has reviewed this multiple times. But where you can't use your cell phone in your hands, period, unless you hit just one button to answer. You voted for the Hands-Free Georgia Act. What are your thoughts on it now, and why'd you vote for it?
I wish I could retract that vote. That's the second vote that I've cast. I've really kicked myself. Second vote where I voted for something and later have kicked myself for the vote.
Wow.
So what happened is there were no opponents to that at the Capitol, but there were a lot of moms and family members there who brought a very emotional story, and it was hard to not feel some compassion for them. And I want to be very respectful. But like the smoking ban several years ago, this is people asking the legislature to do what they were not willing to do themselves. And if a parent is not able to control a child's cell phone use, I don't know that the legislature can do it. Already the prosecutors are saying we can't prosecute this. This is, they're Of course, they weren't there. They didn't point this out during the time, but there's lots of problems with this.
Sometimes a motion does not make for good legislation.
I would say a motion seldom makes for good legislation.
Okay, we're going to take a break and come back. You can watch us online at the News Talk 1330 Facebook page, where we're streaming live. And Lori Bryce says, yes, Susan rocks. So happy birthday, Susan. We'll be back with more with State Senator Bill Heath after this word.
At Tanner, we're advancing health throughout West Georgia and East Alabama because we know that exceptional care isn't based on how many patients we serve, but how well we serve them. That's why we're focused on quality, delivering the best possible care for our patients. It's why we're expanding our clinical services and building new facilities to serve our growing community. And it's why we're looking beyond our hospitals and medical practices to develop sustainable wellness and preventive health programs in our region. What makes a hospital great has changed. It's not how many beds we have. It's how well we care for the neighbors who need them. Delivering the right care to every patient, every time, is how Tanner is advancing health with medicine beyond measure. Learn more at tanner.org or find a physician on our medical staff by calling 770-214-CARE.
Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host. You can watch us on Facebook Live. Bill Heath's in the studio. Oh, one quick follow-up to, we were talking about the hands-free, what do you call it? Hands-free Georgia Act. But now, if I'm rolling down the highway eating food, that's legal. Am I right?
As long as you're not distracted.
So if I'm rolling down the interstate with a Big Mac in my left hand, chomping down a Big Mac, that's
You
perfect.
can have fries in your lap, a Big Mac in your hand, and be putting salt and pepper and mustard and ketchup on there and pulling the pickles out. Just don't wobble.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if I was I don't know what you call them. If I was a vapor,
Yeah, I guess you could have an electronic cigarette in your hand. Just don't talk to it. If it communicates, it's illegal.
and I had a little toy poodle, I could put it on my shoulder.
Oh, they can run all over you.
Yeah, okay. I just want to be clear on that. But I cannot talk on my cell phone.
No, sir. It can't even lay in your lap.
Can't even lay in your lap. Okay. Well, I think that gives plenty of perspective on that issue. All right. Let's talk about money. Every time you're here, I always want to ask you, where are we? I understand the state legislature, in its wisdom, has cut the income tax. Of course, we've talked many times about eliminating the income tax so that we can have the, hopefully, more prosperity and growth. But where are we stand currently on the state income tax?
See, Georgia's been high on its income tax, and we have fought for years to reduce that rate. And then, of course, there was a change in the federal tax law, which essentially was going to be a windfall for the state. And many of us were trying to find some resolution to that. It's interestingly, to kind of follow back on something we talked about earlier, Casey Cagle was opposed to adjusting the income tax. He wanted to wait and let's see how all this works out, one thing and another. Of course, as he saw the train was pulling out of the station, he got on board. But so we cut the rate to 5.75% from 6%. That's a good cut. It's not where we ought to be. And then many have bragged about, and there's another cut to 5.5%, but the other cut's got language in it that says only if it's approved by the legislature. Well, that's been the case for years. I mean, we can go to 3% if it's approved by the legislature.
Uh-huh. Well, this is important because it seems like Florida has experienced pretty robust growth as a result.
Georgia has gotten some good comments from credit rating agencies because of our diversity of taxes. So I don't know that totally eliminating the income tax is the best thing, but It is helpful. Of course, Georgia's got at least a few years ago, was one of the lowest in the nation. I think it was lower on a per capita basis than Florida or Tennessee, which doesn't have income taxes. But we have to be careful that we keep it all in context.
The budget now is $26 billion. We're talking about taxes. What kind of cuts, if any, do you see that we can make in that amount?
Oh, Steve, I mean, it would be very difficult for me to sit here right now and make responsible recommendations. But the problem that I think any family or government has is when things are good, when the income is up, you tend to find things to spend it on, and then you struggle when the income stream backs off a little bit, and you got to start making cuts. And thankfully we for the last 8 to 10 years we've been in a growing economy, and things have been good.
We're going to run out of time, and I got bunches of questions. Let me do two, which I think are important. First one, two Georgia questions. I mean, we both in Harrelson and Polk and Carroll, there's a strong commitment to a rural lifestyle. What is the state doing to maintain that part of Georgia that is rural, that's agricultural, and so that we all don't become just another segment of Metro Atlanta?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we certainly have programs, whether it is the what's called CUVA, Conservation Use Valuation Assessment, that gives some qualified ag uses of land a break on their property taxes. Mm-hmm. So there are some things to do, but the problem that we face, Steve, is that people like this lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And so they come here, and guess where they come from? They come from the
left coast, they
come from the urban areas,
yeah.
And then so they come out here, and they want all the things they had in the city, which are the things that the rural folks were never really attracted to.
Sure. And then
but it's a natural process.
Yeah, well, it's an important question, though.
It is.
I mean, it's a very important question. Okay, with only a couple of minutes left, you can't talk about the state budget because half of it's education. How are we doing budget-wise with education? I understand we fully funded QBE this time around.
It's going to be interesting to see how that works. The educators have almost always said, we need more money.
Always will.
And so let's see what happens. It would be foolish for me to think that we, quote, fully fund QBE, and so all of our graduation rates go to 100%, and everybody makes A's and all that.
Everybody's
That's not
happy.
going to happen. We know that. But
right.
and you can't do it you can't really evaluate this over a short term. But it's going to be very interesting to see how see if more money helps.
So are we going to start holding the Board of Regents more accountable when it comes to money?
I doubt it.
Doubt it. Okay. Well, that's a 3-word answer. I doubt it. Okay. Well, we're going to overall how we got 1 minute. Give us how is the state legislature doing overall? Give it a grade since we're talking about education. A is excellent and F is failing.
I'll give it a B.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
There are some great folks in the legislature. All of us make mistakes.
Sure.
I do believe that most legislators are trying to do the right thing.
If people want to have some questions or want to get in touch with you, how do they do it?
Bill Heath at billheath.net is the best way to reach out to me, and I always love to be helpful.
Final shout out to happy birthday.
Happy birthday to my wife, Susan.
Thanks to Bill Heath for being our guest this morning on the Community Voice. Thanks for listening, and thanks to Tanner Health System for sponsoring us on WLBB Carrollton.